This video is going to take you through the exam style question that we did yesterday, which was using figure 1, those two photographs, explain the physical and human factors that affect flood risk. Here is a model answer that I've written. Just take a minute, read through it now. Pause me while you do that. So, the success criteria is on the right. You need to include keywords to make the answer specific. We've been talking a lot about how we can make our answer specific using case studies. Another way that you can do that is by using specific geographical vocabulary. In this case, you need to be using the words intercepted or intercept. That's when trees get in the way of precipitation that's falling to the ground. Surface runoff, that's the flow of water over the ground, over the surface. Discharge, that's the volume of water within the river. Impermeable, that means a surface that does not allow water to get through it. An urban area, that's obviously a town or a city. And infiltrate. Infiltrate is when water flows through the ground, through the soil. So if you have an impermeable area, the water cannot infiltrate into the soil. You also need to be using connectives to develop your explanation. So in the first paragraph of my model answer, I've used therefore and so to explain why the having little vegetation increases the risk of flooding. In the second paragraph, I've done the same. I've used therefore and so to say why urban areas increase the risk of flooding. So in the first paragraph, I said that there's little vegetation. That means the precipitation will not be intercepted because there's no vegetation there to intercept it. So there's going to be more surface runoff, and that surface runoff is what causes the flooding. In the second paragraph, urban areas cause flooding because there are impermeable surfaces. Therefore, there is less infiltration, so there's more surface runoff, and there is flooding. Flooding is almost always caused by an increase in surface runoff for various different reasons. So you absolutely must have the word surface runoff in your answer. Right, okay. Take a couple of minutes, pause me, have a read through this answer. Does it meet the success criteria on the right? This was an absolutely quality answer. I can't find a way to improve this answer. It is that good. So well done, Hannah. This is absolute quality. For the physical factor, Hannah spoke about the shape of the land, the steepness of the land. She said that if the ground is flatter, there's more infiltration. Remember, infiltration means that the water is able to flow into the soil. And if there's more infiltration, there's less surface runoff. Because if the water is flowing into the soil, there's less water flowing over the surface. So she's done a really good job at using those keywords. In her second paragraph, she's talked about the human factor as deforestation. Deforestation is caused by people. If you're just referring to the amount of vegetation in an area, that can be classed as a physical factor. But if you're talking about deforestation is a human factor. And again, in this paragraph, she's used keywords intercept and surface runoff. So if there's less trees, there's going to be less interception and there's going to be more surface runoff. The only bit that we need to change is this means that more water is infiltrated into the soil. Just get rid of that. However, due to deforestation, there is reduced interception, causing increased surface runoff and increased flood risk, and then it would be a 100% answer. Right, this answer. We need to be really, really careful that we're answering the question. I can see this person has loads and loads of geographical knowledge. They've made a really good argument, but the argument is about the effects of flooding, not why the floodings happened. So you need to make sure that you're reading the question and answering the question. So the start here is good. In figure 1 in the city has a high risk of flooding due to the fact there is flat land and no impermeable surfaces to help prevent flooding. So you're starting off the answer along the right lines here. But in a city, there are more impermeable surfaces. So there's just been a slight confusion between permeable and impermeable here. Impermeable means the water can't flow through it. Like concrete, tarmac, those are all impermeable surfaces in cities. A permeable surface would be something like soil. The water can infiltrate into the soil so it can flow through it. In the city where the surfaces are impermeable, there is less infiltration, more surface runoff, and therefore the flood risk is higher. So 2 things that we can learn from this answer is we need to answer the question, and we need to know the difference between impermeable, doesn't let water through, and permeable, does let water through. The second thing that we need to go through is why deforestation increases the risk of flooding. Deforestation is the chopping down of trees. You guys did a great job on that question on the quiz. I think like 90% of people got it right, which is brilliant. If there are trees in an area, those trees intercept the precipitation. Water will land on the leaves of the trees, it'll get taken up by the roots, and what that means is where there is trees and interception, there is less surface runoff. So, when those trees are cut down, there is no interception, which means there is more surface runoff because all the water that lands on the ground flows over the ground to the river. Whereas when there are trees, some of it will be intercepted. Take a minute to read through this answer. Pause me while you do that. This is a really, really good effort. We've got all the key ideas, but we need to make sure that we're talking about surface runoff as well as interception and impermeable, I can't say the word, impermeable surfaces. So, in the first paragraph here, you're talking about if there are lots of trees and plants, then interception will increase. If there are less plants, flooding would increase. Okay, but you need to explain why the flooding would increase. Why does having less plants in an area increase flooding? Well, there's less interception and therefore there's more surface runoff. Same here with the second one. You're talking about concrete being impermeable so the water can't run through it and will instead sit on top, increasing flood risk. Yeah, I can tell you've really got the key idea here. But instead of saying the water will sit on top, you need to say there will be an increase in surface runoff. And a way that you can remember to do that is by using connectives to keep explaining your answer. So you've used so there, but you need to use another connective to make sure you're explaining it in detail.